So I'm feeling protected.
Welcome to Unbiased and On the Fence. I'm Shane. Thank you so much for joining. Well, everything is okay. Take a deep breath with a big sigh of relief. And don't forget that sigh of relief, because you're hearing yourself and others around you are also hearing yourself. And it's a good practice to bring you back to this now moment, just like synchronicities or anything else. So I was actually inspired to do this video because of a lot of people struggling right now, having a difficult time. Some people are just struggling with seeing what they're seeing happening all around the world, and some people have been put in positions that they didn't expect to be put in right now. And so I just really wanted to share what's been coming through for me, and if it resonates with you or if it's a confirmation to what you've already been getting, that's great, because this is really an individual journey, and I'll try to keep it as broad and yet comprehensive as possible, because I really feel like it will be very helpful, because as I was looking back to my videos last year, a lot of the things I'd forgotten about, one being, like, it was a year ago that I, just out of the blue, I heard the revolution will not be televised. And I've been looking around, and there is a lot going on, and it's not being televised. There's separation that's trying to be pushed on people, and it's causing people that's never been, that would have never been out together to come together in this big, beautiful way. So I know things might look grim depending on how you're looking at things right now, but I tell you what, this is a huge global awakening going on right now, and my heart and prayers are with each and every one of you. And so let me just share what I've gotten. I've gotten connections with Mandela effects that are just amazing. It's like the Mandela effect created this opportunity, almost like a meeting place for so many like-minded people to come together for this grand event that's happening right now. And I really honestly do feel and see, and I am observing us shifting into a higher state of consciousness right now in a huge way. And this is it. This is what we've always talked about. And it's not exactly how I thought it would play out. I had no idea how it would play out. And I think that's part of what's at the root of a lot of the fear people are dealing with right now, is sort of not really understanding what they're seeing, or things not being the way they expected them to be. And that ties into letting go and all of this other stuff that we're going to talk about today. But the first thing I want to play is this clip. What I was shown when I was shown things in the past that haven't come true, and they were sort of political things, so I didn't really want to bring it out because it wasn't really important to sort of trigger people or whatever. But it was in the back of my mind, and as I was hearing different theories and stuff, I took that puzzle piece I had and I began to try to fit it in other things. I was like, oh, well, this sounds like it's in alignment with what I was getting, and then that didn't work out, and so I've still got my puzzle piece that I know it's going to work out a certain way, but it's still not, I don't see anything in sight that's really coming to fruition the way I was shown it yet. But that's another part of this letting go process. So one of the things that I was dealing with is things seemed like they were getting drawn out longer than what I was shown. I never get time frames or anything like that, and I never get any specific information. I just get things to let me know things are on schedule and going great. I think I'm too much of a blabbermouth for them to give me any real secrets, but I can kind of give you the feel of what I was shown, as I was wondering why things were seeming to be drawn out longer, and sort of that carrot and stick, you just keep getting, you push the goal out further and further, and you're like, what the heck's going on here, right? But as soon as I was thinking about that in meditation, I got this scene from this movie in my mind, and it actually starts with some Mandela effect residue from the movie Jaws, where he says, we're going to need a bigger boat. Now says, you're going to need a bigger boat. So let me show this first. This is just the clip here. I'm just going to play just enough to show you, and hopefully it won't get taken down or anything.
Gonna need a bigger boat. Stay here with the kids.
So that's sort of what I was shown. People like running towards the boat, and I was presented with this idea. It's like, if this is what you saw, would you start lifting the bridge up with hordes of people running and trying to get on? So there is some kind of consciousness arc, like Vanessa VA talks about, and this was the picture I got in my mind. It's like, if this is what you saw, you wouldn't try to rush things. You'd be like, oh, all right, let's get the people on the boat. We're going to need a bigger boat, right? So if you notice there, he did say we're going to need a bigger boat, like people remember Jaws being originally. And just in case you weren't aware of that, Jaws being Mandela affected, and you do remember the original, here it is again.
You're going to need a bigger boat. You're going to need a bigger boat. You're going to need a bigger boat.
There it is. You're going to need a bigger boat. Many people remember it as we're going to need a bigger boat. So I don't know if you remember that specific one. That one, it's not a 100% one for me, but I totally believe it, especially with the residue that I just showed. So I was aware of that residue and that scene. In my mind, I sort of saw it from the side, but people like rushing up this ramp, and it's like, would you really pull that ramp up with all these people? And so many people are awakening right now. And really, for me anyway, I can't really speak for anyone else, but the awakening process is really like, I guess you do get to this point where you're awake, but you're still kind of groggy, you're like drifting back off to sleep here and there, forgetting the magical things that happened a few days before, and sort of, falling back into half asleepness and not realizing, everything's okay. Getting pulled into the past with regretting the past or fretting the future. That's the Matrix is designed to constantly pull us from this eternal moment of now, right, where everything's actually happening. So that was the main thing that I was shown, is being in this now moment and letting go and not rushing anything. And that really led me to the open and closed door scenario that has really been so helpful to me. And Alan Watts talks about this when he's talking about the Chinese philosophy of Wu Wei. And and you can look him up if you want to hear more about that. But it's basically this sort of the path of least resistance. It's like understanding this is indeed a guided movie, game, experience, classroom. And whenever you're playing a game, you know that if you get to a door and it's closed, then you just move on to the next door. So that's why having sort of that gamer mentality right now is super important, because we might be presented with something where a door closes in our life, maybe a job change. Maybe you want, there's a lot of division about what's going on in the world right now, right? So maybe in order for you to keep your job, they want you to do other things or whatever. Well, you can consider that at like a closed door, and then get excited about the doors that will open when you take a step in that direction. So always following your heart, and never really bowing to fear, and never letting fear stop you from taking that next step, but really tapping into the excitement. Well, I guess this door's closing, and I don't know where we're going to go, but this is an exciting road ahead, right? At least it's not the same old thing, right? So not getting really caught up in the fret or the fear of what might happen, but to understand that this is all meant to be, you're protected and guided every step of the way, and this is really an exciting time. And I'm not saying it's all easy. It's not tough. In fact, we're experiencing some of the toughest stuff we've ever gone through at this time. That's why I want to remind everyone this awakening process is a day-to-day occurrence. And just looking back at my videos from a year ago, and some of the things I said that I'd forgotten about, I realized how important it is that we do journal, write down those magical things that happen, those synchronicities that are beyond random or just accidental. You saw there was something magical happening, some connection, some song you were given, or some word someone said to you, whatever it was that was so synchronistic. If you haven't written those things down, if you begin to write them down when you're starting to have some problems with stuff, you can go back to that list as a reminder. because it was so helpful to go back and listen to these videos. And it sounded like I didn't really understand the full scope of the future at that time, but I can see how I was shown enough to let me know that I was being guided by a force that was seeing the future and did know what was going to occur and things like that. So I've actually created this playlist, of which this video will be a part of, called Navigating the Shift. And it's just a reminder to go back and look at some of the other things I covered, because they're all so important for right now. And even like Case from Everyday Masters, where I got this hat from, in the 333 hat. He did a video about a year ago. Of course, it was about what was going on in November, but it applies now so very well. In fact, let me play a piece of this for you here. I don't think Case will mind, because it's like right on point with what we're dealing with right now, and it's exactly what I was shown with the cymatic plates and things getting shaken up and sort of just letting go. So this is the letting go that I feel like we're referring to right now when we're supposed to let go. It's not give up. It's not give away your sovereignty. It's not step away from freedom, but it's letting go of exactly how this whole thing's going to play out. And once we do that, because a lot of the fear I hear that people are having is like, well, I thought this was going to happen, and I thought this was going to happen, and it seems like things are going wrong. Nothing's going wrong. This is exactly how it's supposed to play out. And if you take a step back, ask for higher assistance, guidance, ask to be shown. That's not going to happen if you're watching mainstream media, though, because, like I said, it's like you've got to go within at this time, and anything that's in the external world, use it as a confirmation. And here's this clip.
It's time to buckle up, man. And as soon as she said buckle up, I had this flash of this perfect metaphor of what I'm experiencing. And it's from the movie Contact. I'm not sure. Have you ever seen Contact with Jodie Foster? And it's an okay movie. It's a pretty good movie. But there's this one part where they had got this information to build this machine. And in the drawings that they received, in the diagram, there was no chair in the drawings. And so, the scientists were like, well, we have to have a chair. So they built this chair for her to sit in. As it starts, like this chair, starts vibrating. And it's getting more intense and more intense, and she's just shaking and shaking. Starts getting violent. You know what I mean? It's just, the shaking is out of control. And all of a sudden, she looks over and she has this compass. And this compass, she had let go of this compass, or it had come out of her outfit, and it's just floating. And there's no resistance whatsoever. Yeah, I thought it was interesting that it was the compass, because I thought of it as our inner compass. Our inner compass is not feeling this resistance. It's not feeling this shaking. It's not feeling this intense energy on the planet, because it's beyond that. And as she sees that the compass is just floating with no resistance whatsoever, she decides to unbuckle. And the second she unbuckles, she's free. And this metaphor is that is what just happened to me. I was thinking of the chair. It's like our belief system. How can I put this? I always boil down to, there's a split happening on the planet right now. And it's not the Republicans and Democrats, and it's not white people and black people, and it's not even rich people or poor people. It's the love train and the fear train. The love train is headed towards this incredible transformation of our world. And the fear train is headed towards destruction. And it's so weird that, this year, with everything that's going on with the COVID shit, whatever that is, and then this election, it's like,
Wow. So even though this was like a year ago, you can see how much this really applies to what's going on right now, and just in a way that it nicely moves over, because it's always something we're presented with, and I think people are starting to see that, especially as we go around this year again, right? And it's like we're cycling around, and people are like, wait a minute, and people are getting to see it for a second time around a lot differently than they did the first time around, right? So how many times have you guys been aware of something, and then the next time it happens, I can't really say anything specifically, but as soon as you're sort of awake to the fact that what you see on the news isn't always the truth, then the next time around something happens, you're kind of looking at it a little differently, because the last time how much things shifted from what you thought you saw to how they really honestly ended up being. And for me, most of the things, I never did find an answer of what actually happened, but I did find enough to know that what I was told happened could not have happened. And that's really all you need to know that you're being lied to. And so for a lot of people, this is needed to come around again and take a second look at it. And people are seeing it. People are waking up. Things we've seen for a long time. So I think when we think about the awakening process, sometimes we can get caught in those lower realms of sort of waking up to being in a prison, right? That's sort of that first level. But a lot of us went through that a long time ago and realized that that's just all the experience. That's all the learning process. That's all the resistance that helps us grow into these amazing beings that we actually are, that we don't realize, that we've forgotten that we are. So all of this is reminding us. So it's important for us to realize that we don't want to go back to that state of being distracted by these things that are designed to wake up the masses, and it's like they're on steroids right now. So you can really drive yourself bonkers if you sort of get caught up in the minutia of all of the stuff that's going on right now. I'm not saying not to take part in it, but to understand that there's this overarching crescendo of awakening that's happening on the planet right now, and to let go of how we think it's going to play out. Because as I talk to different people, I can see amazing things happening in people's life, and even in my own life. So right when you're at that age of 13, 14, 15, right in there, and I don't know, you're just changing so much in life and realizing so much, and music plays a huge, huge part of your life, and it can take you back to those times. Just I don't know. It's a real nostalgic time to be in as a teenager. So one of the other day, I got the song message that I wanted to share, because this really ties into the fact that everything happening in our life, when you're awakening, you can see how it's actually pointing towards something, right? And that's the thing that I think once everybody looks at it, because I've seen people, I've seen videos of people that supposedly threw their career away, but that's a small thing compared to what their true purpose is and what they're moving into and this new chapter in their life. And I've seen this over and over again, where people say, like, it's like everything in my life has led me to this point right now. And I felt like that with like Milton the Early Riser long ago, and so many things along the way that I haven't documented, and I should have. That's why I'm saying that's a good idea to sort of journal those things, even if it's a few words to remind you. And to go back to that and remind yourself at times when you really need it. So the other day I heard this. Sometimes I'll get a song that I'll work on, and it starts with maybe a bass line or a beat. And so I heard this bass line in my head the other day, and I was kind of grooving out to it a little bit. And I'm like, wait a minute, that sounds familiar. And the more I played around with it, I'm like, wait a minute, I know this. And this is from a song I know. And so I was able to track it back to when I was a teenager. I love this band. I was a Christian, so I love this band called White Heart, like a Christian rock band. They were kind of heavy for the time, but they had an album, and I didn't even barely recognize the album cover. This is how long ago it was. But I put in White Heart full album into YouTube, and I like looking at the different songs and stuff, and I finally find it. And this is what I'm talking about with things in your past, pointing to this current now moment. So let me go to these lyrics here that I was checking out. Now, of course, the music was very nostalgic for me, so I was like crying because I realized that it was like that song, this whole album, right? I listened to the whole album, and there were so many things in it, but I don't want to, that it was big for me, but I know, as a viewer, I just wanted to share a few things that's clearly, as a teenager, I can say this song was in my reality as a teenager, and it just started playing in my head randomly. And I looked it up, and then I realized that's one of the reasons you start crying is because you're like, wait a minute, this is like a download, or this is my higher team giving me a message, and it's a wonderful feeling when that happens. And so as I looked up the lyrics here, I'm looking, and the album was called Freedom, but check out these lyrics here. Let's come out and say the truth. Living can be a fight. Sometimes you find yourself wandering down to the cold winter streets of your life. When you're a prisoner of the time and the darkness is closing in, with all of your heart, you've got to rely on the song that is hidden within, the song that cries out to begin. Sing your freedom, freedom, freedom. Let your song of your faith come alive. And that was just one song on there. And so there's another song that went right along with that I loved. I mean, went right along with what I'm seeing. As I look around, it says, "End times, ready for the show of great signs. It's going to be hard to know which way to go. Some teach, and what they say is true. Some preach, and the power of God shines through." And then down here it says, you got to open your eyes. You better know who's making all the rules. Is he a man of God, or is he just a baby with power tools? So it really hit me in the heart, and the rest of the album was the same way. And it was just one of those little messages to let me know that this was always the plan. I mean, for that to just play in my head, So keep your faith alive. And like Cynthia Sue Larson, there were so many little synchronicities in her video she just put out yesterday as I was preparing for this video. And I was like, it's just in the air. I mean, things are fine. Let God do the heavy lifting, as she said in her video. And I think that's sort of this wu-wei idea of going through the open doors. If a door closes, move on to the open door. And we're being led by that momentum, because right now the doors that need to be open will fly open, and we can just march right through and sing our freedom, as the song says. So lots of love, light, and unity. You guys hang in there, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.